Hello everyone, welcome back. So we have talked a lot about optional. We haven't officially gone through what is optional and how it is used and why do we need that. Okay, but in our previous examples we have seen some different types of optional and how we are going to use that. Okay, let's jump into the optional. What is optional? Okay, as a programmer we all know the null pointer exception or the null pointer check, correct? And the optional comes with a pretty big lot of advanced techniques with the help of the optional and its methods. Okay, so let's see what is optional. Optional is a container object used to contain a not null value. Okay, or you can simply say not null objects. And the second one, basically the optional is used to represent a null value with the absent value. Okay, so it may bit hard to understand, but when we go and jump into an example, we can easily understand that. Okay, and another important thing is it has a various utility methods to check whether the data is available or not available. Or you can simply put it that way, like whether the data is present or not present instead of checking null values. And another important thing, null checks are not required and no more null pointer exception at the runtime because we are handling those scenarios in a smarter way with the help of optional and no more boilerplate code. Okay, so if you have an object, it has a three elements inside, and inside the another element is another list, and it has another data in it. So we have to keep on writing if condition whether the data is not available, then checking the data, and whether that retrieved data is not null, then again check not null. So we can avoid those kind of boilerplate codes. Okay, and another important thing is optional has some important methods which will help us to identify whether data is available or not available or is present or not. Okay, so there are three methods. The first one is empty and the second one is off, and it will accept a input parameter, and third one is off nullable. The first one is empty, which is pretty much it's a straightforward logic. It will return an empty optional instance. Okay, that is not a null, empty optional instance. Okay, and the second one is off. It will return a value. Okay, and it's going to be not null value, so optional not null value. So when you're using off, it has to be a not null value, and off nullable returns an optional value based on the described or specified value. Okay, it will return a true or false for us. If data is available, it will return a true. If data is not available, it will return a false. Okay, in case of false, it will return a empty optional. If it is true, it will return a proper data. Okay, let's jump into a simple example and see how the optional is going to work. Okay, let me launch my Eclipse. Okay, let me create a new class file here. So we are going to have a new package here since it's a new topic. So optional. So the class name is going to be optional example. Have main method also. Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, so I'm going to create a simple optional instance or a variable. Okay, so basically what I'm going to have is I'm going to create a simple method here, so which will echo my name, static string my name, and which will accept input parameter string name, and it will return the name. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, okay, so I'm going to use the optional to retrieve the value. Okay, so how are you going to call the method? Let me straight away call the method and I'll show you what is the outcome of it. system.println and result. I'm going to call my name method and I'm passing some data, or I can pass it as a John. Okay, let's run this one. Okay, the result is John. Okay, how are we going to improvise this particular method? Because what will happen if it is written a null? How we are going to, we don't want to put a null check every time, right? So what we are going to do is I'm going to use the optional dot, I'm gonna use the off nullable. So we all know that what off nullable will do. So based on the specified value, it will return a not null value or empty optional. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to call the method which I created. I'm gonna use John again. Okay, so let me print that also. Okay, let's run this. See, we got optional of John, optional with the data, correct? Okay, so what will happen if it is a null there? Mm, let's modify the code a little bit and see what will happen if it is a null. What then nullable is going to do? We have seen already, if it is off nullable and the data is a null, it will return a empty optional. Okay, let me run it again. See, we got the optional dot empty, correct? Okay, so let's put it in a simple way. But here it is written a optional dot empty, and let me make it as a proper code. Let me run it again. So it runs John again, but I want to retrieve the name alone. Okay, so instead of keeping like that, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to retrieve as a optional variable, and it will return a string, right? So name is equal to, I'm going to use that. Okay, so this will hold my name. Okay, so I'm going to print that name. So if you print, still you'll get the optional of John. Okay, so another important thing which you need to know, if you're trying to retrieve any data from an optional an optional class or optional data which you retrieved, so what you need to do is you need to use the get method which will return the exact data. In our case it's a string. Just run it again. See, now we got the John as a plain string format, or else you can, even if you want to make it simplify, just copy that and paste it here. I can name it as a name one and keep this as a string, and here dot get. That's all. There are different ways of coding. It's up to you. How are you going to do that? Okay, so we can talk about the is present, right? Okay, so what will happen if the data is null? Okay, I'm gonna make this method as a null here. It will return null. Let's see what happens. See what is happening? No such element exception. That means no value present. So whenever you are using optional, you cannot straightforward go ahead and get the data. Before getting the data, you need to make sure the data is present. Okay, so what we can do? So we have seen few methods. Under the optional, just go to optional. Let me show you what is optional class contains the methods. Okay, so here empty method of nullable. Similar way, we have a lot of is present or if present. Is present will return a boolean value, which is nothing but whether the data is present or not. Okay, let me use the is present method to see the data exist. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, before printing the data, what I'm going to check is whether name dot is present. Okay, if is present, I'm printing the name, or else no data found. Okay, let's run this now. Now we got no data found because it's written null value. Okay, let me modify the code back to normal and run it again. Now we got the proper data. Correct? So this is how you need to use the optional. So whenever the place you need to do a null check, make sure you are using optional because it has some useful methods to help us to avoid putting a null check everywhere. We can make use of is present method, and also we have another kind of method if present. Okay, so we will get into all of them in the next tutorial or next video. Thank you.